Less than a third of Los Angeles Unified students might return to the classroom when schools reopen next month, according to preliminary survey results, the district announced on Monday, March 22. Earlier in the day, Superintendent Austin Beutner said that of the families that had responded to a survey, which was about half of all families in the district, 42% indicated they plan to send their children back. Families who don't respond will have their students remain in distance learning full-time by default. Assuming no additional students will return for in-person instruction, 28% of elementary students will be on campus starting next month, as will 17% of middle school students and slightly more than 10% of high schoolers, Beutner initially said. But by late afternoon, with 62% of families responding, the district said that if the remaining families kept their children home full-time, 33% of elementary students, 21% of middle schoolers and 14% of high school students would be enrolled in the hybrid model. The greatest reluctance is coming from families in neighborhoods hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic. Families in more affluent communities that have been less affected by the coronavirus pandemic are planning to send their children back to school at nearly twice the rate of those in low-income communities, Beutner said during his weekly address to the community. In an effort to allay the fear of families that their children may bring back the COVID-19 virus to a grandparent or other household member if they return to school, the district announced that starting April 5, it will partner with St. John's Well Child and Family Center to open 2 vaccination centers, at Abraham Lincoln Senior High School in East LA and George Washington Preparatory Senior High School in South L, for LAUSD families. The issue of whether students attend schools in person rather than remaining online has enormous implications for public education in this country, Beutner said. The opportunity gaps for students from families who are struggling to get by will only worsen if they're not back in schools with their peers from more affluent neighborhoods. Providing access to vaccinations for the families we serve is the single most important thing we can do to get children back in schools, he further said. He expressed concern about the relatively low number of students returning for in-person instruction, saying most students learn best in a classroom and that some children may face a lifetime of consequence if they're not back in a school classroom sometime soon. The superintendent noted that the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on low-income Angelenos and their hesitation to send their kids back to school is mirrored in other large urban school districts. In New York City, about 26% of elementary students returned to classrooms after schools reopened. In Chicago, the rate was below 30%, he said.